To our humble abode. Yeah, so we use this place primarily for hot desking, game launches, entertaining partners, clients, etc. Because as you can see, we've got a rather attractive pool there.
The perfect
kitchen
setup
here,
for it.
minus coffee machine, but ice maker, fundamental, obviously.
Yeah, I know what sort of drinks you drink in there.
And this is more the entertainment area. We do live streaming from here. We've obviously got a bar, pool table, really important. So we do our board meetings.
Keep it light, keep it fun.
Mm-hmm. So it's a great spot, as we know, just to entertain our clients. So all in all, it works out quite nicely. And of course, people love coming to work here as well.
And a bar?
Always a bar, aka the Kalamba.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, well Ben, do you want to park yourself there?
With pleasure, thank you.
First things first, drink.
Absolutely,
Right.
yes please.
Absolutely. I hear that you're allowed a bitter lemon with ice.
I think that sounds suitable on a hot day like this.
Absolutely. That's yours. There you go, old bean.
Beautiful, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
No, good to see you. No,
Good to see you.
Thanks very much for coming. Welcome to what we call Casa Calamba. This is our hot desking entertainment office, whereby we not only do some work apparently now and again, but actually we also use for game launches, entertaining partners, clients, etc. Obviously with COVID last year that didn't work out particularly well, but all being well, as the summer begins to come to an end, we'll be able to have more opportunities to get some people over and enjoy our office environment here.
That's a very creative workspace. Did Calamba start from here? Was this your original space?
Well, as far as Malta was concerned, yes. We do obviously have an office in Poland, Krakow. That's where all our development is done. And then I moved over to Malta just over 3 years ago, obviously looking to establish the commercial office here in Malta. So there was myself, Giles, our CCO, was already here. And so we've been building up finance, biz dev, account management, hopefully legal by the end of the year as well.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about the platform and technology behind Calamba. So I know your games as a consumer, but what are you doing as a business to try and sort of, provide something as a differentiator to the space, outside of just making brilliant games?
Well, I suppose I could have sort of jumped back and just sort of reiterate really what the Calamba product strategy was from day one.
Please.
And maybe just to give a wee bit of context as well, because Alex and I, we're both from the gaming gambling industry.
Yeah.
Alex more so, he was predominantly land-based IGT in the early days and then moved over to Quickspin. I myself, I was at Kindred for many years, albeit in poker.
Yeah.
And then around the same time, Alex and I actually left our respective real money gaming jobs and went and joined different companies in the social gaming world, social casinos.
But had you met before? Did you know Alex when he was at Quickspin? You were
albeit not. I mean, I've met him a few times.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was predominantly knew Joachim, one of the founders. So I had met Alex quite a few times through that. Now, when he then moved to this company called Acomon, as it was in the day, I moved to a company called Game Desire. And we were both major competitors in the space.
Ah, cool.
And we knew each other fairly loosely. So we could see that, okay, their one company is missing these kind of products, we're missing those kind of products. So we sort of started speaking to each other and started to run some initiatives between the companies.
Who started that? Do you remember? Who reached out first and said...
I think it may have been Alex, actually, to be honest. But yeah, because they were particularly interested in our poker at the time because it had massive volume.
Yeah.
And we were particularly interested in leveraging off their slots capabilities. Because even though at the time we were developing slots, the in-house team didn't quite have the skill sets to deliver the kind of slots that were needed, whereas Alex could. So we sort of put together some joint initiatives between the companies. But then after a year and a half, couple of years, Alex and I I think during the one meeting we were having, we were saying, why don't we just get back into real money? You know?
Why? And that's a really good question.
Okay, why?
Because social looks so accessible.
It is.
Looks like it's money for nothing with no taxations to pay. Also, there's payment processing, but
There are much easier facets to the social gaming world for sure.
well, certainly from outsider's view in, it looks so attractive and accessible.
It is. I mean, one could argue it's one of the most perfect business models. You know, people deposit money, but they can't withdraw it. Well,
Yeah.
that to most people is wonderful. Not so great, I would say, for the player.
Completely
but this
unregulated, no controls, no safety measures around it.
No,
But yeah.
no. But this is whereby they have always predominantly focused on the retention side of things and become the grandmasters of data, how to use data, and leverage that into the kind of products that so strengthen your retention capabilities and engagement functionality as well. So what Alex and I, my own journey was that I was going into social gaming with the intention to come back into real money, but I just wanted to learn everything that was working there, what the trends were, the technologies they were using, etc. And then that morphed into that one conversation with Alex where we thought, we know a lot about social. We've learned a lot in the last few years. Why don't we try and bring what we've learned into real money?
But in the same way, when you're looking at each other's businesses in the social space and you can see how strategically complementary they are, you can also see what, you can see the gap analysis really openly. So if you're looking back at real money, you can do another gap analysis and say, wow, the game developer in the real money space doesn't do anywhere near the same as a game developer in the social space does. Because you're direct to consumer, so you have the data means something, and the data is incredibly important. You talked about retention. Your ability to retain 0.01% more of your social number of players makes a huge difference to your bottom line. So you were looking back into the real money saying, do you know what? You actually had a bit of a schooling here as to what works.
Yeah, and it was primarily around the way that they gather, manage, and then subsequently use the data within their product strategy.
Yeah.
That to me was always the most attractive side of things. I first saw great usage of that in the early days with Amazon and eBay, their sort of recommendation engines, etc. So they were kind of the first steps to me saying, now this is pretty clever stuff.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's down to trying to reduce your marketing wastage at the end of the day. Jumping back though slightly to their Kalamba journey. So Alex and I, we knew that there were big gaps in the market anyway, or in the real money market, particularly when it came to the kind of features, mechanics, etc., that the social gaming world use very effectively, and see what we can do to bring that into our product strategy.
Yeah.
So for us then, we decided that we would focus on building games that typically have persistence. So you're having to do X, Y, and Z, and then that obviously works towards some kind of payout. All of that's obviously inbuilt into the RTP, etc.
Yeah.
But those are sort of some of the core game mechanics, but it's also the meta features that ultimately help drive the retention and the engagement mechanics, I guess. So and that, as we can see, now has become very popular. Everyone's now bringing out promo tools, be it jackpots, tournaments, leaderboards, challenges, missions, those kind of things, all of which are on our roadmap, have been right from the very start. It's taken us a bit of time, obviously, to get to the point whereby we can now begin to focus and develop those things, which we started a year and a half ago now. But for us, it was very important to bring some of those features and mechanics which we know work in social. The argument could be, does it work in real money?
Yeah.
Well, the argument is yes, because it's just based purely on basic human behavior and psychology. So it doesn't matter whether it's real money or social money. The key traits still persist. What drives a human to go the extra mile? What is going to trigger that? A little bit of dopamine, etc., to be released. These are all. This is all knowledge that has been around for donkey's years. I mean, it's been
and it works. I mean,
the
first conversation. I don't know if it was the first. I don't think it was the first conversation. One of the last conversations I remember us having when I was at Mr. Green, is you came in, we sat down in one of the coffee areas, and we were chatting around, the meta game within the game. So you can have the underlying mechanics, but it's the experience the player has within that game client, within that session, that was so important. That
Absolutely.
persistence. And I remember sitting there already knowing that I'm kind of leaving within weeks,
Scheming,
months,
plotting.
to thinking, what Calamba are doing is kind of a lot of what we're seeing as missing, which is the entertainment side of gambling. So you have the absolute basics. I want to risk money to make money, but you've got to absolutely optimize the entertainment opportunities within that experience as well. And I felt that certainly when I was looking at what you're doing, you guys were absolutely on the right path. So yeah, it works. So those that are engaging with your differentiation, your value proposition, offering, and
For us,
utilizing
though,
that.
I would say that the operators we love dealing with the most are the ones that really understand the value of the insights and the data that we bring to them.
Okay, that's important.
If we, for argument's sake, if we're going to do an exclusive game with partner A, then we won't go into it blindly. We will sort of show them a whole level of business
Validating,
intelligence,
yeah.
showing, these are the personas that we recognize across your existing player base, okay, within our own ecosystem. These are the kind of things that they find attractive. Do you guys want to focus on that persona, or are you looking to focus on that persona? And if so, they like these kind of game types, they like high volatile games, etc. So without having that initial kind of insight, as well as working with operators who understand it, then that makes our life a lot easier.
You mentioned personas when talking to operators. What is your take when it comes to creating the personas and then sharing the sort of useful information from a persona that an operator can relate to, that they themselves can go, yeah, you're right, we have that. Is it a value of the player? Is it the frequency that they come in? The type of game they're looking to play?
I mean, it's a mixture of a lot of those. I mean, typically, any player journey, if you're looking at a single player journey through, even just one of our games, there could be upwards of nearly 1,000 data points to capture there, which can tell you a whole host of interesting information. Now, obviously, we being a B2B supplier, we have fairly limited access to the granular information that could give the kind of insights that would enable our partners, obviously, to make some pretty smart, informed decisions. Now, even without that information, you can actually garner incredible insights to the players, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. You could even virtually work out how much they earn on a monthly basis just based on some really, really high-level information. But for us, though, the one thing that has ultimately been missing from the industry historically, whilst we know the B2Cs are very focused on data, they've all got massive BI teams, etc. Very few of them have dynamic systems. A lot of it is just manual work and then obviously addressing and looking at that. Whereas we as a company, we've been primarily focused on the dynamic side of things. Working with operators now, first of all, they're integrated into multiple back offices. The last thing they want is another back office to have to use. So from our perspective, whilst we are working to provide that facility or have that facility to operators, we don't want to push that down them at this point because at the moment, with a lot of our, say, our promo tools, etc., it's really a question of proof of concept initially. Go with one or two, preferably one key partner, prove that the jackpots or the tournaments are running accordingly, get whatever information back, and then use that information not only to better the offering as a whole, but also to ensure that our partners are making the right decisions when they next set up their next tournament suite or jackpot suite. And what we do then as a supplier is we enable those insights for the operator to ensure that they make the correct decisions and more informed decisions.
No, that's good. I think that's probably a fair sight more than what a lot of game developers are doing.
So we've been busy building the kind of systems to eradicate that. And as an example, sort of jumping back to the BI, I mean, this is like going back many years. One of the things I used to discuss all the time in poker at Kindred Bet. I think I used to bore them senseless, actually, about it. No, I can't imagine either. But it was building the systems to reduce marketing wastage. Now, of course, they were slightly upset because it might mean half them won't be needed. But the end result is still really what a business needs. If you've got X marketing budget, well, you want to be seeing a higher return on that. Now, as an example, one of the biggest problems historically with the B2Cs is not really understanding who their players are and really the comfort zones by which those players reside, depending on what metric you're using. So if you're savvy and you've got the data and you're managing it correctly, and you can see that there are 6 personas that define your player base, then you know the key characteristics that ultimately define that player. Then you throw a different kind of metric at it, like deposit frequency or turnover per month or what have you, and then the personas will shift slightly, but you'll still be able to identify what is the comfort zone. So the comfort zone typically is, the mean. It's not the average, but it's the mean amount or whatever the metric is, which governs probably 75 to 80% of that persona group. So if we're using spend for argument's sake or wagering, and someone's, you've got group A that wagers or their comfort zone or their mean says 100, the upper threshold might be 120, the lower threshold might be 80. Yeah. But you now as a B2C operator know that persona group, we need to target them within that threshold. We can push them outside to the tune of 15, 20% on a managed frequency. Yeah. But ultimately, you're trying to keep all your offers to fit within that comfort zone, because you know that if you don't, you're just going to most likely piss those players off. If I look at our product strategy, we've got Bullseye, which is our RGS. Yep. So those are our integrations, it's our game framework, etc. Our portfolio resides obviously on that. And then we have other two key verticals that reside within the Bullseye ecosystem. That is our promo tools, brand name to be confirmed, but and that consists of tournaments, jackpots, challenges, leaderboards, recommendation engines, all this sort of stuff. And then we have Stargazer, which is our data management system. That, again, super savvy, very clever. We're right near the start of it, so there's still a long way to go. But that is the system which we're going to use to do exactly what we've been describing, identifying exactly who the players are, and then managing that accordingly so that our partners' player bases, depending on what they want, they get delivered. What Stargazer essentially does, or will do, is it has the capability, based on whatever the data, to predict the future. That's, dare I say it, is, everyone would love to do that.
Beautifully named then.
I know. So you've got the capability to predict the future. So you can predict future behavioral characteristics based on if you do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. But most importantly, and something that generally is not talked about for all the obvious reasons, it actually boils down to controlling the outcomes. It's all about control. If you look at any facet of life, it's all about control. Anybody, if they feel that they've got power, then it's actually power is an outcome. The output being actually having the ability to control things. So if you have the systems to predict the behavior, then you have the ability to ensure that certain things happen or don't happen. Okay, Ben, with the weather being like it is, I think we should go and cook ourselves outside. So
why don't we do the whole thing from here?
Exactly. May as well sort of keep ourselves cool, dip our toes.
I think I'd have expired if we'd done the whole conversation from here, but this is nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the great thing about it is that, after a board meeting, you can at least have a quick dip, cool oneself.
You're talking about work-life balance. This is work and life.
No, exactly.
Is nice. Awesome.
And actually, no, I mean the pool actually we keep in really good condition as well. Anyway, so it's swimmable all year round.
Yeah, yeah.
Albeit a wee bit chilly sometimes, but
Nice.
okay. So moving on though.
In terms of technology, what innovations are you most excited about? What have you seen out there? What do you think is coming that we can look forward to?
Yeah, no, I think that I mean, aside from some of the cool game mechanics that we've seen come out in the last 2 or 3 years, they really raise the bar when it comes to the likes of us and other game providers. But games and mechanics is one thing.
Yeah.
I would say that I personally probably more excited around how our partners are going to be using and managing the data moving forward.
Yeah.
It's always formed a key part of our product strategy. Everything is built around
Do you
data
think we're
points.
do you think we're at that inflection point where we've talked about big data 5-6 years? Do you think we're now mature enough as an industry to start using that data to affect action and change?
I'd say some of the younger companies are better positioned because they've built their tech stack accordingly in order to cater not only for these kind of requirements, but also to future-proof themselves.
But like an operator like Lucky Days.
I mean, if we're looking at B2C, I'd say one of the good examples of a company that is using data and dynamic systems effectively is our friends at Roots and Wires.
Oh, true, yeah.
We saw them come from nothing 3 years ago to an exceptionally valuable company in less than 3 years.
Yeah. So if data is one of the biggest innovations you think that we're on the cusp of utilizing and using properly, in more general terms, what are you most excited about in the coming 12 months?
Well, for us as a company, not only our Bullseye promo tools, I can see us leveraging off that over the next 12 months. Very excited around Stargazer, so that whole data management dynamic.
Putting that in the hands of operators for them to do their own inquiries. You're looking to create an interface that they can analyze with.
That is part of the product strategy. However, as the first point or the first step, should I say, we will be managing that ourselves. So
Yeah,
we
of
will
course,
say, right,
course,
this is what we're going to do. Do you want to buy into it? This is obviously what we're trying
What we
to
can
achieve
provide
from
to
it.
you. Yeah.
The next step would be to take the information or requirements from the operators, say, look, we'd love to see X, Y, and Z, and maybe you tweak this.
Yeah.
Great, we'll do it based on your requirements. And really then the third step is to provide them with the back office system so that they can actually do it themselves.
Yeah. If you had to use Stargazer to look forward and say, okay, I'm going to Nostradamus the next 12 months, what are you most concerned about? What do you think are the biggest challenges, fears on the horizon that we need to work with?
I mean, I think the two challenges which the industry faces as a collective is the ever persistent regulatory requirements that can pivot and change.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very opaque. No one knows what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
And eventually the answer comes, and everyone's scrambling to try and meet those requirements. For us as a company, that's less of a concern because we built everything knowing that these things are likely to happen. We built our whole RGS on a framework so that we can cater for not only at the time all the existing regulatory requirements, but also any potential future ones as well.
Very good.
So from a tech perspective, I don't see that as a major impediment for us personally. It is a challenge. You will have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem, I would say, for us as a company as a whole, it's not product, it's not technology. One could argue the persistent problem of finding the right people, but everyone's in the same boat there. But really it boils down to banking. Banking is still really the Achilles heel within the industry. It's becoming more and more difficult, as you know, to get a bank account. Even here in Malta, it can take anywhere from 8 to 10 plus months.
Yeah, and a lot of grifting and grinding to get there, yeah.
And if you're a startup and you haven't got a bank account,
If you're an unknown,
Well, then
no
good luck.
background, yeah, it's really, really challenging.
So
That's the biggest challenge, but is that also the biggest area for innovation then, do you think, in the coming 12 months, banking?
I would say that if they were able to innovate on streamlining KYC and DD, that would be one of the greatest innovations for the banking industry. And the same applies with people like the MGA, and any future regulatory authority. If they all came together and said, right, we'll create a centralized KYC and DD repository for the gaming or the gambling industry. It's all signed off. Everyone's agreed to it. Yes, certain things need to be updated on a certain, every 3 months, depending on what the requirements are. But if there was a centralized system for that not only the banks but also the gaming companies bought into, then it will make life a lot easier for sure.
Yeah. One of the things we haven't talked about is USA. And obviously as key markets are concerned, US has always been talked about. Like, imagine if the US opens up. It's happening. It's still slow, but it's happening. What plans do you have for sort of entering newly regulated markets? I know you're live in Italy, Spain, some of the key markets.
Nearly live.
Nearly live. Okay, so there you go. On in the way, coming soon. What plans do you have for going stateside?
Well, we do have plans. We've already got them underway. It's twofold. One, we most likely will be working in partnership with our existing partners, Oryx. They have quite an aggressive strategy to get content out through their existing channels, which have been, came about through acquiring a couple of studios there who already have various integrations in place. So that's going to be our first step. We are already using one or two consultants in the US to drive our licensing process.
Right.
So we're actually at the KYC DD stage at the moment.
Fun.
That 63 or 65 page document.
It will age you 63 years or 65 years as well, I think.
I know, if they wanted to know like my list of all my father's jobs and
blockchain.
My mother's. No, exactly. I mean, if you ran all of this kind of information on those kind of systems, then it's there, it's verified, everyone agrees to it. Next regulator, obviously with the US, it's done by state. Now, the requirements aren't massively far apart at the moment, but there could be one or two that are.
Yeah.
And if you had, again, a centralized KYC and DD system, then new state coming on board just accesses that. Company A or Calamba, okay, they've got this, and this, okay, they've all been verified and checked, right, we'll just use those. Why do you have to go through the whole goddamn process again? It's an absolute nightmare.
Awesome. Well, Steve, let's wrap up with a monologue then. Let's give you the scenario. US is open. You want to go in there. In Amazon Casino exists, and Jeffrey Bezos gives you a call and says, "Steve, Kalamba, what's it about? Why do you matter? What's your elevator pitch to become a key supplier to the industry?"
We, as a company, even though, as I said, we are viewed as a gaming studio, we're actually now morphing into one of the true technology powerhouses in the gaming industry. We're very excited about it. Our technology is hyper flexible, caters for any regulatory requirements. It's built for scaling in any direction. It's abstract, it's modular, which helps obviously when it comes to security. So, things can't break it.
And future change as well,
in different areas. No, I'd say that our elevator pitch really is, don't see us just as a game studio, but we are now morphing into, dare I say it, one of the true gaming tech powerhouses. Well, Ben, thanks very much for your time.
Not at all, my absolute pleasure. Really
no doubt
enjoyed
we'll
it.
see you here more often anyway.
For sure, you've got a lot of attractive features to the place.